Poverty is everyone's problem. It cuts across any line you can name: age, race, social, geographic, or religious. Whether you are black or white, rich, middle class, or poor, we are all touched by poverty. Hello, my name is Lauren Esola, reporting from Cranberry Township, PA, on December 12, 2012, and today I will examine the widespread effects of poverty and ways educators can promote academic achievement and social development for students of poverty. For my field-based activity, I will report on trend number 7, which examines the increasing percentage of children living in families with incomes below the poverty line. Specifically, I will be identifying research-based strategies that promote academic achievement and social development for students of poverty. The information from this session is helpful in treating students equitably and respecting their cultural and family differences. There are staggering statistics related to poverty spanning the United States. The number of United States children who live in poverty is almost 1 in 5 children living in or near the poverty line. Poverty is not specific to one race or geographic region, but is rather a widespread epidemic. According to the Children's Defense Fund, 1 in 3 black children is living in poverty. 33% of poor children under the age of 6 live in urban areas, while approximately 20% live in the suburbs and 25% are in rural areas. Poverty is approaching 13 million children with no end in sight. Poverty is everywhere. So what can educators do to help meet the diverse needs of a growing population of students living in poverty? Our learning session number 7 offered excellent insight from Dr. Ruby Payne into better understanding poverty in an educational setting. Dr. Payne explains that students living in poverty lack resources in many areas, including financial, emotional, mental, spiritual, physical, support systems, relationships, and knowledge of hidden rules. Dr. Payne reported that the academic rigor, plus curriculum relevance, and caring relationships can all foster higher student academic achievement. There is plenty of research available supporting Dr. Payne's suggestions for increasing student achievement for students of poverty. In an article titled "Public Schools and the Excuse Culture," Joel Klein claims that high-quality teachers can and do make a critical difference regardless of a child's socioeconomic status. Klein reports statistics from the National Assessment of Educational Progress to support his claims that funding is not a key factor. He reports that low-income black students in Washington, D.C. are academically 2 years behind their same race and economically disadvantaged peers in Charlotte and New York City by the time they reach 4th grade. D.C. spends more per pupil in the school year 2004 to 2005 than any other of the largest 100 school districts aside from Boston. He also states research from Harvard professor Thomas Kane, who found that popular charter schools in Boston are able to rapidly narrow the achievement gap. He suggests that the teachers and principals made a huge difference in student performance. He notes that effective teachers use necessary programs such as after-school tutoring and high-quality early childhood education programs. In an additional study titled "Examining the Culture of Poverty, Practices by Cuthrell, Stapleton, and Ledford, they examined the culture of poverty and the identification of strategies to best serve children living in poverty. They note that in 2003, Reeves conducted a study of schools with 90% minority, 90% free reduced lunch, and 90% of learning outcomes met. Several strategies emerged on a school level, with the most important being to hire and retain teachers who believe in their students. The effective teachers take responsibility for their students' learning and expect results regardless of background. Similar to Dr. Payne's claims, the study also found that curriculum is important and should be designed to focus on small, achievable goals. Teachers should also use daily and weekly assessments to create academic interactions and closely monitor and actively help students. The study also found that schools with increased collaboration and who create common assessments and common grading scales also set higher expectations for students, regardless of the teacher. The report additionally identifies strategies that work on a classroom level. Teachers should create a positive environment where children feel they belong. The teacher must believe in their students and provide a reliable, positive relationship. A teacher must also appreciate the family and celebrate and respect student differences. Classrooms should be high in challenge and low in threat. Additional strategies include planning lessons that are meaningful to the students, using simple reinforcement, learning names quickly, establishing team building exercises, and modeling genuine acceptance. I also wanted to take another look into the social development of students in poverty. In terms of social development, Randolph, Rose, Fraser, and Orthnor report that studies showed negative trajectories can be modified by opportunities for pro-social engagement. Poor youth often encounter barriers to pro-social engagement because activities may be expensive and time-consuming. Poor students may have the responsibility of caring for younger siblings or working to supplement family income. Students may also have parents who do not encourage participation in extracurricular activities. It is important for educators to identify these barriers and encourage students to join activities and form relationships with peers. Randolph et al. Reports that factors that promote attachment to school, such as participation in extracurricular activities, help students to remain in school longer, which leads to greater educational outcomes. I asked my field educator, Emily Ackerman, her stance on several questions related to poverty and education. The first question I asked Emily was, are you aware of differences in student academic achievement and social development for students of poverty in the online learning environment? What barriers does poverty create for these students? Do you think they are more or less noticeable than that of a traditional brick-and-mortar school? Emily responded, I attempt to identify differences among my students' achievements and social developments daily. However, relating the achievements and developments specifically to socioeconomic barriers is difficult in the virtual classroom. Poverty does present many challenges for students, as research shows. While there are no techniques in place for PA Cyber, I have developed my own personal ways to identify students from poverty. Often I find out directly from parent-teacher communication, as well as instructional supervisors letting me know about a student's situation. Once identified or suspected, I work closely with that student to support them as much as possible. Next, I asked Emily what school systems should do to lower the achievement gap for economically disadvantaged students. Emily responded, school systems have a difficult task of developing curriculum that is relevant to a wide variety of students. I would not place this task solely on the school system, but rather equip teachers with the knowledge to identify students in poverty, determine the most effective ways to motivate students of poverty, and hold teachers accountable for these actions. I would encourage the school system to educate the faculty at an in-service day, at which time a plan could be established to help students in poverty in an online school setting. This is a process that will develop over time, but if established with a strong foundation, it can be very beneficial to many students at PA Cyber. Finally, I asked Emily how educators can better help students of poverty achieve academic success and respect their cultural and family differences. Emily responded, I help close the achievement gap between my students in poverty and middle-class students by fostering relationships, showing students I am reliable, and forming trusting relationships. We are a team and are constantly cheering each other on and saying positive things to one another. I get to know each student and show them I care each day by sending individual notes, communicating on a personal level during breaks, and encouraging each student every day. Finally, I model appropriate behavior that shows I care for each student, and I take the time to help any student who is not achieving well academically by staying after class, offering tutoring, and constant support. In the future with students of poverty, I hope to place more focus on building important relationships with these children. I will always strive to show respect, kindness, and humor. I hope to set clear rules and expectations within my classroom, closely monitor student interactions, apologize when I make errors, and keep promises. To help better respect the families and cultural differences for students of poverty, I hope to also build a positive relationship with families. I can allow myself to be a support system and provide both my students and families with coping strategies for solving conflicts, setting goals, and using optimism. I hope to inspire and urge positive self-talk and give relief when the student is upset. Finally, I hope to continue learning and never appear ignorant to the students' family and families of poverty. I plan to continue to educate myself on the difficulties of poverty and ways to help my students and families overcome obstacles to give them the best chance at academic success that they all deserve. Thank you for listening to my screencast. This presentation was written and produced by Lauren Esola. Music and pictures are provided royalty-free by Creative Commons and Microsoft Clipart.